I hope everybody is rested. So I'm very happy to meet you all here today, and some are a little bit familiar, and some are maybe still kind of new. But however, it is just really nice to kind of like have all these kind of audience that you all from near or far, just with some kind of interest, maybe more over kind of spiritual aspect, that just to coming here to hear something about my talk. I really appreciate and feel just really enjoy, and that whatever I could kind of share something from my background and from my kind of studies, and also part of what I have studied, kind of the basically the Buddhism, and that way kind of I can share something for you, and you all can share something for me, and we can just kind of learn just each other, because there is lots of things to learn from kind of like from one each other. So that which is in one way, we are on this global, kind of like we are one, kind of like a human being. As a human, we really don't have any difference, externally, physically, appearance, how we appear as a human being. We don't have any difference. And then internally, about our kind of like emotions, emotions and feelings and thoughts and concepts, and what it is known as kind of mind or consciousness. From that point of view, also we don't have any difference. It is just all same. Actually, not just only human beings. I think even all the, what we say, sentient beings, including all these, kind of insects and so forth, because they also have, kind of feelings. They also have, kind of just wish to live, kind of peacefully, happily, and they're also looking for, something good. And so from that point also, we don't have any, kind of real difference. And at the same time, what we all wish, what we all wish as, kind of like happiness and peace and good health and so forth, from that point of view also, we all don't have tiny bit of difference. That as everybody is wishing for, looking for, kind of like happiness. So from that more, kind of internal and personal wishes, that we, kind of there is no any difference. And at the same time, kind of we all wish to get rid of suffering, whatsoever sufferings, pains, kind of problems, that we don't want to, kind of experience that. So from that point of view, also we don't have any kind of like a difference. So with that as a kind of like a humanity, that we all look for something that what we kind of light for kind of happiness, peace, and so forth. So, and at the same time, there are many things what you all have learned, in the Western world, including all this, Western education, technology, science, and so forth, kind of like a really advanced in this kind of modern education, that you have lots of, kind of knowledge. And from that point of view, for me, maybe just kind of tiny bit, even though I have been in school where I study like kind of mathematics and economic, world history, Tibetan history, and geography, social science, and including like some very ancient Indian language, Sanskrit, that which most of the kind of Buddha's time, all those teachings were kind of taught in Sanskrit, and so forth. Kind of I just learned in 8th grade and until to 12th grade, and then the rest I mostly concentrated into this kind of Buddhist philosophy, and then Buddhist studies, and moreover kind of like a practices, like including like meditation and so forth. So from that point of view, there may be something that I can share, or I can just kind of like let you know, something. So then I'm not going to take too much of your time, maybe about about an hour. And then what I like is, like we can have some question and answer, because kind of like you all may have just so much of interest in the kind of like, for example, like Asian culture or Buddhist philosophy, or especially that whatever I'm going to kind of talk about, as you heard, like dream yoga, right? You all hear about that. Today I'm going to talk dream yoga. So dream is something that no matter who we are, where we born in kind of Asian country or Western country or North Pole, South Pole, as a human being, kind of once in a lifetime, everybody has some dream, So at that time, everybody gets so curious about, just what is dream, why this is happening, and what it is behind that, how we can understand the dream, how we can apply dream, some kind of practice, what is the information, and so forth. There are always so much, kind of curiosity. And also that how dreams can, kind of like happen, and so forth. So it is also a very, kind of interesting, just field that, just about the, kind of dream. And not only that, in Buddhism, as you heard about what is called dream yoga. So yoga, of course, it is, it's combination. Dream, of course, English, and yoga is the Sanskrit word. So yoga means just how you can engage into practice. That the dream, how you can just do that kind of practice. There are kind of many other sorts of kind of like a yoga practice, kind of like breathing yoga, physical exercise, and spiritual yoga, and meditation yoga, and so forth. That which is very common in kind of Hinduism in India, and also in Tibetan Buddhism in Vajrayana. That there are lots of kind of these spiritual exercise in relation with the like our kind of physical body, with the channel, which means the that nervous system, how we can apply the nervous system in form of path, and then the vital energy, the kind of breathing air, how we can even just engage into kind of practices and so forth, like so many types of kind of like a yoga kind of practice. So the thing is, like one thing that at least at this present lifetime, we all wish for kind of like a good health, and then happiness and peace, and that where one could have kind of success in one's life. So that is very common in everybody. It doesn't matter Western or Eastern or anywhere. But then kind of thing is how that can be achieved. It's not that what we wish could happen. What we don't want may not happen. It's not necessarily. It is really dependent on one's own wish or not, or one's own belief or not, or one like or not. It doesn't really just happen things in reality, in the relative world, just based on that. So things happen in relative reality based on its specific causes and conditions. So it is of what is the causal level, that how one can kind of like achieve happiness. So for happiness, what are the kind of causes, and for to get rid of suffering, then where we need to concentrate on the cause of suffering, so that we can abandon, and so we don't have to experience kind of suffering, and so forth, even getting success into one's life, and even just good health. It is not just one wish does not. So it has to depend upon completely on its kind of like a cause. So about the kind of health, just I know you guys are just much advanced in all those knowledge, that how to keep kind of healthy. Have lots of knowledge, understanding, education. But then problem is, what one study and what the knowledge one have gained and what one have learned sometimes don't put into practice. Just not following exactly according to that, kind of engaging into practice in one's day-to-day lifetime. So then just the knowledge is one thing, and then the practice is one thing. So if we just don't practice it exactly, then whatever just knowledge is just a knowledge, understanding, and but it is not really transforming your kind of like a, for example, like health, that what one wish. So health is, as completely dependent on what we eat and what we drink, and then rest of kind of physical exercise, as kind of scientifically by doctors, Western doctors, Asian doctors, including Tibetan doctors, including that kind of in Buddhism, how Buddha has also taught all about that. That how to just follow a kind of right diet, and what is good for health and what is harmful for health. So there need kind of practical thing, what we need to abandon and what we need to kind of accept and kind of follow. So that is one reality that we kind of follow into that nature. And similarly, on the other hand, just wishing for kind of like happiness. There can be temporary happiness and ultimate happiness, and that even the temporary happiness also depends upon physical happiness and mental happiness. So physical happiness that based on when we are healthy, and what we need, what we like when we have relative things. There is when you are not sick and healthy, one feels happy. But then that happiness does not really satisfy. That happiness does not really satisfy. That is why they're looking for inner or mental happiness. So that is why mental happiness is more powerful than physical happiness. Physical happiness cannot just overcome the mental problems, mental suffering, cannot come over. But if you have mental happiness, that mental happiness can really help to overcome physical suffering and pain. So that is why our mind is become more important than what we just really think about physical and physical world and including material belongings. So that something which is in a more hidden level that where we need to really understand about how much the importance of one's mind and how much powerful is the mind and how much the the strength and the qualities of the mind that how much we can develop. So that part is so much related with the spiritual understanding, so much of spiritual understanding. And not only that, in our lifetime, what we achieve, how we work hard and achieve all these belongings and so forth. As we know, as we witness, as we see in this world, how much we obtain all this external material wealth, just how much we may have, then when at the end of the day, nobody just carries anything with them when they leave. Everybody just really, no matter whatever we may believe, no matter whatever our religions, culture, tradition, system, everybody is exactly same, that we leave everything, and then including this body. When we born with this body, but when we leave, even we leave this body. So at that time, what we are really, just traveling, or what we are carrying is again that mind. This our mind. So this mind is somehow, whether according to any different religion, belief system, all this explanation, for example, in Christianity talks about, like a soul. So soul is not other than this our mind. And then in Hinduism, they talk about like Atma. Atma, they say Atma, Paramatma, that they think, Atma is just the soul, which is, permanent. And then, in, Islam also, there is also similar, a belief that of, something that which after they die, something goes to, their God in Allah, that's Allah place. And then in Buddhism, it says that is what it is known as consciousness, our mind. So that way, mind is, a most important thing in our lifetime to just nurture and train and, invoke all this, mind's, quality. So, according to that, then the just, how to train our mind, because whatever that, how much our mind could, develop into its this kind of quality, knowledge, and understanding, that which we can kind of carry through in the next life. Whether you believe or not, next life, but somehow once kind of as we just kind of the consciousness or this mind, when it just departs from this kind of body, and then there is something that which is kind of going through process for what is called next life, kind of before one achieve a next life form, or there is a what is called intermediate stage, that just where ones are looking for another just kind of a form for the kind of rebirth, that whether one just really believe in rebirth or not, whether one believe that there is next life or not, whether one just don't believe in that way, but the thing is there is some kind of reality, that the truth, that something that which we must have to kind of understand and educate in this lifetime, so that we can be kind of sure about what we could do, kind of do for the next life, or in the process of whatever it is going to happen in the kind of a future. So according to that, that where in Buddhism it says everybody has what is called Buddha nature, and that can be exactly explained in Christianity, what is called Christ nature. And similarly, that same kind of our pure nature explained in all the kind of religion, because every single sentient being have that kind of pure consciousness in our being, a pure consciousness. And that pure consciousness is that what we need to understand, and what we need to kind of train, and what we need to kind of develop and progress in this lifetime, just knowing the kind of the pure consciousness. And that how much we could develop that knowledge through practice, or through kind of a meditation, or through all this exercise, that is kind of the thing. It always will be with oneself. One can just have it. Other than that, the rest kind of we have to just live. So based on that, then kind of there are lots of in just Buddhism, somehow there is to kind of investigate, kind of analyze, that similar kind of science, how much kind of go through all sorts of investigation, analysis, experiment of kind of just energy and light and substances and so forth, including this quantum physics, kind of doing all sorts of experiment, and then they just come to some kind of a almost just the atom, or almost a nothingness, that based on the quantum physics, and some of those kind of very subtle kind of scientific kind of explanation. So similar like that in Buddhism also, there are lots of things to intellectually to kind of investigate. So through that, as we investigate, we kind of supposed to have that understanding about kind of our mind, just what is a mind, kind of what is a mind, and then just how it is kind of functioning. So in one way, where you study psychology, and in Buddhism also there is a very extensive explanation about kind of the mind, that there are 6 kinds of senses, and then there are 8 kinds of senses, and then there are 46 mental factors, and then according to it goes more deeper into it, kind of 51 mental factors, and then based on the emotion, it talks about there are 84,000 like emotion or mental factor, that how much we can give rise almost in a day, kind of all those things. So, so within that, it is just more or less, kind of categorized into two, just only two most important thing what we need to, that what is called virtuous and then the non-virtuous. So virtuous is something very positive, and non-virtuous something negative. So that positive is always very meritorious, something beneficial, and kind of negative is always just causing kind of like a just problem, and kind of like a suffering. So these two are rooted in our mind, and that is only two. For example, like compassion and then the hatred. Compassion is also our our kind of mental activity, and then the hatred is also our mental activity. So like kind of these two, when we kind of study about mind, then how many of those like compassion and so forth, compassion, loving kindness, tolerance, patience, caring, to benefit all those whole category of that side. And similarly, hatred with its kind of side, hatred, anger, jealousy, pride, ignorance, and so forth, all the kind of the negative side. So those are just nature of our mind. It is just there. So now to really experience kind of peace and happiness in this lifetime and in future and so forth, then we have to know which one we have to nurture more. So that part kind of like it become just very important in psychologically, mental studies, and at the same time one can do experiment in one's kind of lifetime when you are generating compassion, how much you feel kind of joy, peaceful, relaxed. And when you are generating compassion, how much your family, kind of friends and relatives, how much they kind of love. And when you are just compassionate, even how your face kind of like appears, kind of very peaceful, smiley, gentle, and nice. And so that itself proves that it is something positive. And then when one gives birth to anger or hatred, just the moment hatred thought arises, how much it is disturbing within oneself, so much of unhappiness and kind of frustrated and kind of just no peaceful. And then with that kind of like a just how much it affects when one shows hatred or anger, how much it affects one's family, friends and relatives, how much people kind of hate about it. And even that kind of anger or hatred, the mind is also what's a physical taste is also looks a little bit scary. So that itself explain it is something just kind of like a negative. So just based on that, like it is just a nature of kind of like a human being's life and human being's mind and human being's kind of things that which kind of arise, which is exactly same with rest of all the animals, insects. They all also have same thing. As long as there is what is called consciousness or mind, then that sort of kind of like a nature is there. So based on that, now that what we do is we cultivate that habit, habitual tendency. Those who are very habituated, just short-tempered, every time get for small things get angry, frustrated, kind of like just very agitated. And that when one get kind of like this negative emotion, if one just don't control and don't work on it, and if you let it happen that way, and that will just become habit. That habit cause problem, and that habitual tendency carry from this life to your dream lifetime. In the dream, you will feel similar like that. And those who are habituated being just very loving and kind of relaxed and compassionate in their day lifetime, every time, just maintain that, when you have that mind. And that same thing, you get habituated, kind of that way how it, habit comes into your, kind of dream. And according to that makes your dreams sometimes nightmare dreams, very scary dream or very disturbing dream. And sometimes even in dream, one just kind of dream, just quarreling with somebody and just almost fighting with somebody, kind of yelling with somebody, or something is attacking, something is causing problem, then one just have a nightmare to wake up. So those who have, kind of like a very peaceful mind, relaxed mind, compassionate, trained in that way, they always have, kind of like more peaceful dreams, kind of nice dreams, meeting with friends and having nice, scenes, like, having some sorts of, parties like that, because that day lifetime, what we do, kind of like that is cultivating all this, habitual tendency. So that, comes into, kind of like a dream. So that where one just more or less, one just like, some peaceful dream, nice dream. So that way, where that, kind of dreams, in generally happens. And then all the dreams happen only when you have a light sleep, So the scientists also did, kind of did experiment, how dreams can occur in somebody when they are sleeping. So they even just, kind of say, when people is sleeping, then they watch on this, eyelash, and when just some sleeping, it is just kind of like just not moving at all, just, then one go to deep sleep. And when oneself is having, kind of dream, then this part, kind of here, it is just kind of moving, because inside your eyeball is moving in relation with the dream. Your eyeballs are moving, kind of like this, like this, like, how we move. And in that way, this, kind of the impression come on this, come on this eyelid, so this eye, what do you say, eyelash or this one? The eyelid, eyelid, on the eyelid, one can see it is moving like this, means somebody is having, kind of some sort of dream, because that the eye is still just kind of like almost, even though it is closed and some half sleep, half wake up, and so it's still having some sense of, kind of seeing something. So that way one could have those, kind of like a dream. And then dreams that there are just merely dreams, and then dreams of habitual tendency, and then the dreams, something that which also predicting, indicating something in the future, maybe the next day, the morning next day, or maybe after a few days, or maybe after a few weeks, kind of like something, kind of indicating. So dreams are categorized into those, kind of three kinds. So just normal dreams, kind of like mere dreams, that you have some kind of dream, and then, when you wake up, also not so clear. You just feel like, I had some dream, I don't remember. And many times, kind of, you have a dream and then wake up and then again just sleep. So, kind of, there is also no meaning. That those kind of dreams have no meaning. And then the second, as I said, kind of the dreams of habitual tendency of the day lifetime. For example, like, today you have a very, just kind of like a tough day. You have to just kind of quarrel with your boss or with your family or somebody, and just something happen and you are not satisfied. Then, kind of again, because your mind is not settled down, and that which kind of like a habit, becomes strong, and then it happened to kind of dream also, continuing something. So that what it is, kind of habitual tendency, kind of like a dream, or something, kind of very serious incident happened, or something just happened that stuck your mind. So those kind of things, can happen. Then those also dreams mostly does not have very clear memory. And then the dreams that which indicate something is mostly in the early morning, about 5 something and about 6 something. Between 5 to 6, just early morning, one have some dream, and when you wake up, also that dream is also very clear, very vivid dream, and almost you remember the every dream. So that dream really indicates something. So that kind of dream you have to just pay attention. Oh, last night I had this kind of dream. Somebody is talking to me, something like this and that. What is all about that? Kind of if you pay attention, you will just kind of really have that incident. Somebody just talking to you, or very similar to that, some kind of incident that one can just happen. So, however, those are just kind of like a dream. Now, the dream yoga, how we can apply that dream as a kind of like a practice. So that engaging into practice is then in our tradition there is a whole kind of like a set of kind of practice before you go to sleep. There is a short practice of what is called Guru Yoga practice, that or deity yoga practice, deity or Guru or Buddha or something that where you do part of your daily practice. That where you just you just get into the bed and then do that practice kind of short, and then the next is that kind of your intention is become just the intention is one key for to have a kind of like a dream yoga practice, that where you just then when you do that this deity yoga practice or anything, that you say, oh, I may have a very peaceful and nice dreams and clear dreams. That way you just do practice and prayer or something, whatever. And then with that intention, oh yeah, tonight I'm going to practice kind of dream yoga. So let me have a peaceful dream. Because if one have nightmare dream, one gets frightened and wakes up, then one cannot continue the dream, one cannot do the dream yoga practice. So if you have a peaceful dream, it's not necessarily just because of the dream you have to wake up. Even though we have peaceful dream, we wake up, but still. So peaceful dream, and then have that intention, or I will just kind of like a practice dream yoga. Which means that when you have a dream, when you are starting a dream, then at that time where one just kind of like engage into practice to realize, or it is a dream. So without waking up, one have to kind of recognize, oh no, I'm dreaming, or this is a dream, kind of not waking up. And that kind of like takes time to get used to it. Every time one try to kind of practice, it may break one wake up. So to have that dream, as I said earlier, you just kind of like have to have a light sleep. If you go to just you got so tired and just go to bed and just go to deep sleep, then just cannot have dream. But in the beginning, you just kind of get into a deep sleep, and then early morning, with any kind of like external sound or anything that which may just kind of like in a very subtle level you wake up or not fully wake up. At that moment, one could have kind of like a dream. So for to have that light dream, one have to just kind of have a here a tiny light, like a tiny bulb, with kind of light, one visualize, feel like that, or there is tiny light. And then with that, as one sleep, then it will just kind of like go to sleep, but at the same time not very deep, kind of light sleep. And then that which help to experience, kind of like a dream. So, however, when one could have that, dream, and then every time just one want to, engage into that dream, that kind of realizing that I'm dreaming. So, as a dream, like in generally, it is all just kind of like illusion. There is no any reality, because in dream you dream yourself there and your families or friends or landscapes and so forth. But those all are your kind of mental projection. Your mind is displaying everything. Other than that, you are just kind of really, in sleep on your bed, but you can dream, kind of certain things there. So that dream, when one have that dream, just it will take time to, in the dream while you are sleeping itself to recognize as a dream. So that takes some time to, recognize, in the dream itself, I'm dreaming. Few times it is possible to wake up, but as one, kind of like continue, then, after a while, then one get used to it, or just kind of, now I'm dreaming. And then you, not waking up, you can continue the dream story. You can continue the dream story, whatever you are just kind of like appearing, then where you can just kind of like display, or just kind of play with that dream. You can just kind of visualize in a very pure, kind of like a beautiful, landscape, all those, beautiful, kind of like mountains, waters, rivers, and nice peoples, and then yourself, everybody, and then according to that there are, kind of like all these, just almost like a magical illusion. You can just display yourself in different forms, kind of, you can display yourself tiny one like childhood, you can display your just teenager, you can display, grown up, or you can display male as a female and female as a male, and all sorts of, and that when it could, kind of like happen, where one could, work out that way. So that way, once you wake up, then you have just a very strong image in your mind. Oh, just dream, in dream, there is nothing, no reality. Everything is just like the mental projection of kind of like a illusory display. So with that understanding, you can just also apply in this lifetime, just seeing, oh, these all are also looks like a dream. So where one can just, kind of see this as a dream, because, kind of somehow, however we are, kind of like thinking and believing and experiencing this is kind of reality. But if we, kind of like, for example, if we, just apply and kind of like analytical meditation, or investigate, for investigate into, for example, like say, this our body. So we think this our body is real, corporal, substantial, true. But that if we just kind of try to look into it, investigate, where is my body? Just to find it out, a kind of like a entity that as your body, if you just try to investigate, kind of like taking your body, intellectually, taking your body into parts, and portions and particles and smallest particles, searching out where is my body. So looking your head, take into part, hands, legs, and then even just your fingers, until to the smallest particle. When you search it out, then you cannot find what is called body. So body is just merely all these parts and portions and particles of the bodies are being put together. Then it looks like body, and then on that we are just believe this is my body, and then we think this is real, and then we kind of like have that attachment, grasping, clinging on it. Other than that, there is no any inherent existence of the body, or there is no any inherent true nature of body. When you really analyze, just you cannot find anything. Oh, this is my body. As a single entity or single phenomena, something that which has inherent existence or inherent true nature, you cannot find. But at the same time, relatively in conventional level, there is kind of your body. So these kind of like a analytical meditation, as you kind of like do, that is kind of exercising your kind of like a wisdom, your mental kind of wisdom. You are just engaging into your absolute nature of your mind. That your mind have kind of just, it is kind of like a so vast. Our mind is so vast and so infinite, equal to the space, and within that kind of like space, like mind, it has so much of its kind of quality, so much of quality that almost like an enlightened being, how much qualities are there, that much we all have it. But we have just got limited ourselves, and even the science says this brain or our mind, in certain level, scientists saying this how much kind of the brain capacity or capability, we are not even using about kind of 50% of it, and maybe majority kind of population, maybe even just 35% of the our brain activity or mind activity, that much is we are utilizing. So almost like kind of 65% of, or like almost 70% of that kind of capability, the kind of the capability or ability that our brain or mind has, we are not kind of exercising, and we are not using. So then in kind of like wisdom, there says our mind has that, as I said, the pure consciousness. The pure consciousness is consciousness aspect of its vastness is equal to space, and within that it has all its kind of enlightened qualities are already present in our being. So to experience that, the power of that kind of like a transcendental wisdom, or that kind of like a power of that knowledge, that which is within ourselves, to experience that, then one need to do that kind of analytical kind of like a meditation, just analyzing. So how we analyze this our body, just, and when we analyze, like one can't find, but still it is kind of just relatively kind of existing. So from that point of view, if we analyze any other phenomena, including your car, take all the wheels and doors and top and back and everything, every single screws, and take into parts, and then look where is your car, you cannot find your car. It is all parts and portions and screws, and then nails and tiny of those things. Other than that, there is no real car that where how we just kind of believe as one car as inherent existence. It's not there. So that way we just gain some kind of like a wisdom that if analyzed, car is also like illusion, and body is also like illusion. So it looks like really like a dream. So in dream there is no any reality. Dream means that there is no any reality, no any substance. It is all just mental, like almost like mental imagination, like where there's a kind of the building castle in the air. So just kind of one go through imagination, all sorts of things, but there is no any kind of reality. So through that dream yoga practice, that which help to understand this nature of kind of the relative reality into is kind of like a dream, like a magical illusion. And then in this lifetime, if we try to just kind of believe and try to understand and try to kind of like a convince oneself, okay, this is all like a dream. So why one have to be so serious about everything? So that way, when any kind of like a just condition, situation, problem, people may kind of criticize, people may blame, or people may say something, or just kind of all those problems. Then if one have that understanding, okay, just don't mind. It is almost like a dream. For a moment it seems like kind of like a disturbing, but when you don't mind and when you let it go, and still you just kind of feel as like a dream, and develop that sense of compassion, and develop that sense of kind of loving kindness, like kind of like one's very very dear one, just how much you love and how much you care, and if you look in that way, so that nothing in this world can cause you problems. Nothing can just create that much of suffering or pain to kind of oneself. And even sometimes people praise you, people praise you, people just appreciate you, people say many good things. What is there so much to be excited about it? Because it is also a word and just imagination, and then okay, thank you, kind of let it be, in that way. Just relax, don't get so kind of like excited. If you get too excited with the happiness, then again there is next you fall down. And when you are just kind of like a just too kind of depress oneself and have so much kind of like a aversion, then again it is also how much it is disturbing kind of like oneself. So where there is something that to find it out a what is called middle path, not to be get too agitated with the negative things, and not to get too excited with the kind of good things. Just kind of relax one's mind, and but at the same time one can do everything what one need to do in one's day-to-day lifetime. But there is a skillful means how to relax one's mind, to have a very calm and clear and relaxed, because your mind, intellectual, that wisdom is already, kind of open your heart, open your mind, that just it's like a dream, that there is nothing that makes so much difference, and that way where one can maintain one's mind in a more peaceful way, and that just the dream yoga, as you could do more, and that helps example, kind of, or in the day lifetime. For example, like those who have near-death experience, and that they experience that their body is there, their mind is out of it, and also one can see one's body, and one can see families, how they are worried, and then kind of, and even you try to talk to them, they don't, because you don't have a body, you are consciousness, and your consciousness, like a near-death kind of experience, your consciousness, your mind, holds that habitual tendency of your body, exactly how you look now, similar like that, you feel like that, and you talk to your family and just even doctor what you are doing, and nobody can just know, because the consciousness or the mind does not have any substance, does not have any tangible thing. Mind does not have any kind of shape. Mind does not have any color. Mind does not have any form. So that is why that your mental body that of that experience cannot touch, and also how you feel like you are speaking, but there is no real word that the kind of like your family can kind of like experience or hear. So that kind of same thing that where kind of the just the dream lifetime, and with that sense of understanding, you have a kind of like a completely a different experience, that where you kind of see I was there, and then this looks like reality, and there it doesn't look like there is some reality. And through that there are also ways to understand, this all, however we are grasping, clinging, having attachment and believing this is real. But somehow if we just really go through it and investigate and analyze and just examine thoroughly, everything looks like a dream, and that is how it looks like a kind of magical illusion. How the magicians create all those kind of like a out of just like a candle comes out a bird, and then bird comes into change into some kind of flower, and all the audience looks like something is really happening, but the whatever that magician's kind of illusion means, there is no reality at all. So that way, how that there are some possibility of having that kind of like understanding about this kind of reality with the kind of dream yoga, and with the dream yoga having that understanding about kind of this life, where one can just kind of relax, and that kind of knowledge and experience and wisdom if one gain, that is kind of very very meaningful and beneficial to relatively to relax one's mind, and in the even just kind of like a kind of next life, or in the future also, where one could kind of naturally feel relaxed, kind of like easy, how to just kind of handle with any sort of kind of those problems, including sickness and all those kind of pains or sufferings, everything. There are ways to kind of relax. So that is why mental happiness can overcome the physical kind of suffering and physical problems and physical disturbances. So if we gain that kind of mental just happiness, mental kind of peace through that. But the physical happiness, how much we could have, cannot control the one's kind of mental suffering or mental problems. So that is why our mind becomes just very crucial and important to train to kind of just try to go beyond these realities, psychologically, intellectually, and with so many different experiments, and including like magical illusions and dreams, and similar like how you kind of reflect your face in the mirror, just you see like in the mirror you are just there. So your body has not gone in the mirror. Mirror has not come into your body, but still it looks like there is some kind of reality, that something there truly existing, and that however it perceived kind of real, doesn't mean it has to be real. So there are all those kind of things. Even we drive on the road. Sometimes on the road, sunshine, then we see, there is a kind of water, like mirage, and it looks like there is water, but it however it looks like real water, but in reality there's not tiny bit of drop of water at all. Similarly, your dreams, in the dream, all sometimes very good dreams, but when you wake up, that it is all that the dream scene is never ever happened at all. So, with all those kind of examples, and with all those understanding, with all those experiences, there is something we can just go beyond this kind of reality to understand one's own kind of pure nature as pure consciousness. And that if we could experience and realize, then there is ultimate peace and ultimate happiness. And that sort of happiness and peace and that kind of joy and that knowledge will never ever fade away. And that will just kind of stay with oneself for just kind of ever and ever. And that is the all thing what we are searching through kind of spiritual practice, or in a religious way, or kind of through all this meditation, and through all this whatever we are trying to do in this kind of world. We are searching for that happiness. So that which is kind of a possible through kind of our mind training, that where all the qualities are spontaneously accomplished within our mind, just exercising to avoid anything that what it is kind of causing problem, like all the negativities, mental negativities, verbally negativities, physical negativities, because it is cause of suffering and cause of problem and cause of disturbance. And then but where we engage into is all this kind of a positive mental qualities, such as compassion, loving kindness, and forgiveness, tolerance, and caring others, and then condense it what is called kind heart, to be a kind person, just to train that. And that if you have that kind heart, kind mind, you are just verbally, it's also just something very kind and nice that everybody appreciates. And then you are just kind of physical, your act is also when you are kind and loving, you are just, even your doggy, you just want to be pet, like this, you want to show just kind of nice. So doggy also know that, oh, this is kind, okay, this will not harm me, so I'm okay, fine, And when you just kind of little bit of kind of a frightening, and then they also just get so frightened. So that way, how we can kind of live our life in a more kind of peaceful and happier, and ultimately we could possibly achieve that kind of ultimate peace and happiness through such kind of mind training, with the dream yoga experience as an example. And with the dream yoga, it helps to realize this reality is also like a dream. So then I think I will stop here. And yeah, if it is not too late, if you have questions. Oh, yes?
Thank you for taking my question. Sir, if I understand you correctly, through diet and discipline, self-discipline, whatever you eat, whatever you drink, how you live your day, you keep your nervous system calm, and that helps you keep your mind calm.
Yes.
And is your mind and consciousness the same?
Yes, mind and consciousness is the same. Consciousness is the kind of activity of mind. Mind becomes conscious about knowing something. So actually, it is just kind of same. And then those as you said, if you maintain kind of a very kind of including all this diet, something that which is more kind of just feeling more relaxed and peaceful, and moreover just having that kind of a day-to-day life, the mindfulness, more mindfulness, and be aware, I'm conscientious about everything, and then that will keep physically relaxed, and then mind also naturally relaxed because of that whole complete nervous system just falls into its kind of natural state.
If you're controlling your mind, who's doing the controlling?
That there is looks like two. Looks like two. Your mind is controlling by your mind. So there is no any other else, and that is something where say, that you say oh, today I'm not feeling well. What happened? I don't know. My mind is just happened something.
That's right.
So you say your mind, and then your mind is kind of your, and whatever you are saying is your mind. So it looks like oneself and mind. Somehow like we have the mind. This mind overruled oneself. Whatever we think, whatever we give rise to this emotion, and all this according to that we have been just following every moment. When you get angry, then you feel like anger is yourself, and this saying I am angry, and that way this anger kind of overrule you, and then you kind of like express with anger. So that way this our mind, sometimes when the negative side of the mind is become powerful, that it rules over you. So that is why we need to have mindfulness, awareness, and conscientiousness that whether this is right or wrong, whether this is good for me or not. Sometimes this our mind also causing problem to oneself. Yeah. So we have to overrule the mind. So that is why we need meditation. Yes?
Sometimes when I feel intuition, something that just comes and I feel that there's either something I need to pay attention to around me that I'm not paying attention to otherwise. How is that related to the mind that you're talking about?
That mind is losing the awareness. Awareness. Mind is losing awareness. Awareness. Yeah. And also just mind become just kind of like a frustrated or just agitated with something that which one wants to do, and then it just kind of like a just disturbed, and then something that one kind of like a forget. So that is why always one have to calm down one's mind and just have mindfulness, and then clarity of mind. Just where need to maintain that awareness all around is kind of very relaxed, and then mind can just be more peaceful. And that is based on sometimes intuitions are in so many times it is kind of true, but also one have to examine that based on the reality it works in that way or not.
Do you equal awareness with consciousness?
There is there is relative awareness, and the relative awareness is kind of like equal to consciousness, but the relative awareness is more kind of positive and quality side of the consciousness or mind. But then there is awareness which is kind of like a absolute awareness, and that is kind of more wisdom. That is not related with consciousness.
Are you saying there's something called consciousness, and then there's something different, more basic, called pure consciousness?
Yeah. There is consciousness of relative, more relative, and then it's kind of like absolute nature as pure consciousness. That pure consciousness and then the pure awareness, they are just same.
And pure consciousness does not contain mind. Correct?
Yeah, not contain mind.
I have a practical problem. When I listen to you, I start to get conflicted between trying to grasp your words with my I call it a small mind, so, or the egoic mind, maybe, I don't know, but it's the thinking mind. And at the same time, I have this desire just to feel the energy that's behind what you're saying, and that's part of what you're saying, or your being here, your presence. And so I don't do well either of the two, but sometimes I try to get the words, and other time then I don't sit and feel your energy. And that's, what do you suggest?
Yeah, so that in generally it is also possible to happen, but that one have to just kind of like concentrate, in either of one. You want to concentrate into the whole complete energy, or you want to really learn and concentrate into the word. So that part you have to just kind of like try to do one at the same time. You cannot do two things at the same time,
Which choice do you suggest?
That kind of like the energy that which one feels, kind of like a very, just positive energy, and that part of like energy, that experience, and that experience one can try to maintain everywhere. Just carry that experience. When you are in a crowd, you just try to feel that experience, and that way it helps to relax one's mind, calm and kind of peace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just confirming.
Yeah. Yes.
So is mindfulness the path to pure consciousness?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have a specific preparation for the moment of your death?
Yeah. That one thing is like it is kind of like more or less important to train oneself kind of from right now, just knowing one day the death is kind of going to happen. So then how to prepare is as I explained here, based on the reality, always try to be kind of calm and clear and relaxed mind through the mind training of all this kind of positive qualities, and always being just nice and good and not creating any kind of like a negative side. And besides that, it is also good to follow some kind of like spiritual practice, including meditation. There are what is shamatha meditation practice, which means tranquility meditation practice. Just focus on some object and relax, calm down your mind and relax and concentrate. So calm abiding. Just as that meditation as you do, then at the moment of death, when that's happening, one can apply that meditation at that point, so one will not get frustrated or worried or kind of scared or frightened. One could calm down one's mind, and then kind of like engage into practice. Then it also can become more effective at that time, because that now physical activities are kind of dissolving. The physical elements all dissolving, mind is becoming more and more clear. So that's why if one concentrates, then it could become more powerful practice at that time, so one don't fall into any kind of like a terrifying, kind of like a experiences. Yes?
So, to summarize, the reasons why we should practice dream yoga is to understand the nature of the illusory nature of phenomena, as well as understanding emptiness as form and form as emptiness, as well as doing these practices to connect and realizing our own true nature of mind. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's correct. Yes.
So those are the things.
Yeah. Ultimately, have to know that emptiness nature of phenomena, emptiness nature of mind, and but that emptiness nature is kind of like a perfection of all the enlightened quality. So that emptiness is not like complete voidness, but it is kind of like a perfectly enlightened, in form of it's kind of like wisdom, transcendental wisdom, rather than this kind of this relative conventional existence of phenomena. Yes.
Would you talk a little bit about the relationship of Buddha nature, Rigpa, and Shunyata?
The Buddha nature has Rigpa, and Buddha nature has kind of Shunyata. So Buddha nature itself, Buddha nature's nature or the Christ nature's nature is again kind of like emptiness, Shunyata. Its nature is emptiness. But at the same time, that emptiness nature itself is Rigpa, that as an awareness, that where there is kind of like perfection of awareness, that which one knows and accomplish with all the enlightened qualities. At the same time, there where there is no tiny bit of conceptual mind. So this samsaric conceptual mind is not present in the kind of like Rigpa as awareness, and the awareness is also not a kind of like a conceptual mind or thought or just a mere awareness, but it is kind of emptiness with the just enlightened mind. Yes.
A small comment and a question. Small comment is when you were talking about our pursuit of worldly things and accumulating things and how at the moment of death, kind of as the great equalizer, that you can't take those things with you. I kind of realized that that's the same as going to sleep at night. Being rich and poor, male and female, they all have to leave behind all the belongings and their body too, right?
Yeah.
Dream body.
Sure.
And then a question would be: is there you talked about dream during sleep and then also deep sleep? And is there a practice for deep sleep, and how does that relate?
Deep sleep relate with what? Dream?
A practice, like deep sleep yoga.
Deep sleep, there is no yoga, because deep sleep means all your senses and everything dissolves into the fundamental consciousness, so that it goes into just almost same like kind of almost like death, just oneself is really in deep sleep, kind of just everything shut down. So that there is no kind of the deep sleep itself. There is no any yoga or practice. That only thing is not just getting into deep sleep and then kind of like applying some sort of kind of dream. When dream happens, then applying into some practice, illusion practice. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us tonight. I'm very new to meditation, and a lot of this really good stuff just went right over my head, but I'm excited to learn more. Do you have any advice for someone who is brand new in meditation? How do you cultivate a practice, and how do you actually help yourself calm down when all you want to do is get up and do all the things that you know you have to do? You should be sitting and trying to be quiet and relaxing, even though everything else is going on in your house, and you know you should be checking your email or doing the laundry, or how do we in the Western world take what you do and help apply it to our lives here in the midst of all of craziness?
So that is one thing that in a day one have to really schedule. If we just kind of like keep doing what we need to do, we'll never ever get any time. It's just always takes after one after another. So one have to schedule, like maybe early morning or evening or in between, that at that time, at least, I'll just find it out, kind of make some time, even just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to, kind of like relax and, sit into meditation, just to feel yourself, your mind and senses. Instead of wandering outside, you just kind of like look into, oneself and into one's heart and into one's body, and to look into one's mind and just kind of relax and feel kind of your whole kind of system within yourself, including your breath, and relax. And that way, if you just kind of like prepare that schedule, every day, like 5-10 minutes in the morning, or sometimes in between your job, you kind of have just go out and relax and sit for 5-10 minutes, or in the evening. And that way, kind of one can just, that one's body, mind, everything slowly get used to it. Then it will help one's mind to experience the mind itself, and then one can see some kind of calmness. Then one wants to kind of prolong that, and instead of constantly doing something. So that way, rest of all other things also you have to divide in your time. Or I'll check email by this time and do this thing by this time. And laundry you don't have to do every day, at least. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You mentioned out-of-body experience.
Mm-hmm.
Would you elaborate on out-of-body experience in relation to what I thought I heard you say, vivid dreaming?
Mm. Yeah. In one way, the vivid dreams, and the kind of like a near-death experience of mind out of this body, kind of like in a way, kind of the illusory part of the experience, it is just kind of like a same. But the dream is just that your mind is kind of like a manifesting the whole complete, kind of like a dream, kind of like a scene, which is also, kind of anyway illusory. Nothing really happened. But the consciousness or mind out of one's body, like near-death experience, is, according to that consciousness, it is the reality. Oneself really experiencing, and one's body is there, but it is not that, because it is a kind of like a for a moment, experience like that. And if it really wanders out, then one will just really die. But somehow it feels like, kind of coming back, because all the doctor and nurse, they all are just, hard breathing, and they try to do oxygen and something, so that will bring back. So that is kind of real experience, a mind really experiencing. But still, in one level, it is kind of like illusion, but it is also a real experience what is happening. Similar like that, one may happen, kind of possible in the other day, kind of death, that, just where one really have, kind of feel got out of mind, and then, kind of the body is lying there, and then there is, what is called mental body. Mind is experiencing that form, but there is no real tangible body, but one feels like that. And so, and then at that time there are, if one have some practices, and then one can think, oh, this is all illusory, like any kind of frightening things or appearances or form, one can just accept, this is all illusion, why I have to be frightened? So there are ways one can do practice. Yes.
Are there entities or disembodied spirits interfering with your peace, or is that just your mind?
Relatively, there are also other entities. Certain kind of things are possible, but still it is so much dependent on one's mind. If one could have just somehow control over one's mind, and one have that all everything one's mind projection, and there is no any other reality, then kind of the external entity also does not affect or create any problem. Yeah. You. Yes.
Rinpoche, if I wake up in the morning and I suspect that I've had a meaningful dream, how can I understand that? If it's accurate and what it means.
Needing for dream?
If I have a dream that is meaningful, how do I know?
No, that meaningful, like some dream, very vivid and clear, just you remember everything. Then whether it is meaningful or not, you have to just examine. If it is some kind of indication, then kind of later in the day or maybe next day, something will just kind of like happen. Something just kind of like a positive. Then you just so this is the indication for the dream. So that something kind of like become meaningful. Yes.
But it's primarily a personal process that I would understand on my own.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
In the same way, in this waking dream, if I experience something scary coming at me or in my world, I can the same way just not accept it, just not give any energy to it and let it go, and then it'll go away or it doesn't happen. Is that?
So that depends upon two, kind of like a real externally, physically existing some kind of harm, or just kind of something that like where like something that which is not really physical, not physical substantial. So if it is kind of something kind of physical existence, then one have to kind of like just physically one have to prepare and walk away or just get rid of it. If it is kind of like a non-physical, some sort of like emotion or concept or something, then if one don't pay attention and just let it go and kind of like a never mind at all about it, kind of it will just kind of go away and cannot really cause any harm.
I kind of mean like a cross between the two, where you're in a relationship or in relationship with another person who has a different energy or a more negative energy, and you're trying to engage with them to get them to see how negative it all is and how unreal it is. And then, so I just have to deal with that person from that, just stay in that place. Right.
So those like emotional things, like that, based on the energies, it is true. If one just kind of let it go, even this negative kind of energy, if one don't mind and let it go. Besides that, if one just kind of like generate more compassion and care for that kind of person, then that negative energy transform into more positive, and it will not bother to oneself. It is important to really don't mind and let it go, and then it will just kind of really go away. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
With regards to premonition, so from the point of view of on the relative way of looking at premonition. Premonition, like what's coming up, it's like a message. Like maybe you see pictures of flooding and whatnot, and it actually happens. So from the relative mind, it's almost like it's a reality, correct? So how do you explain it from a point of view from an alternate mind to explain it as it is not a reality, but it's just like you say, the illusion. So how do you like reconcile that?
So that depends upon what sorts of kind of like the kind of illusory appearances or form or just imagination. It just kind of like it depends on that. If it is just kind of like a basically mind projection, then there is no any reality. So something that which doesn't have any reality, one can just kind of understand this is never mind, this is no reality, just let it go and don't mind at all. Then other than that, there are sometimes kind of through one's practice, just doing all these practices, then there are kind of like appearances, kind of like the deities, sorts of kind of illusory appearances. Then in those kind of like if one feel just more positive and relaxed and calm mind, and with those experience, one can take it as kind of like a blessing. If it is kind of like the moment it appears, if it is slightly little bit frightening, then one can take it as illusion and try to just let it go. Yes.
As I came a little late. As I was listening to you speak, I kept thinking, well, where are you going with this whole thing? And then you started talking about dream yoga.
Mm.
And then I realized your approach to what some call witnessing is a little different direction. Through the meditation, the mind settles down into that consciousness, and then sleep or dream or waking starts to be witnessed. Correct?
Yes.
What you're doing is you're taking a technique and alerting the mind, oh, now you're dreaming. Watch the dream for a while.
Yeah.
Now that's enough to say, now you're awake. Watch the dream for a while. Right?
Yeah.
So it's same end result, ideally, just going from two different approaches. Right?
Yeah.
So sleep is possible to witness also. Even though the body is silent, the mind is nil, there's still some awareness. Oh, the body's sleeping. Right?
Yeah, that's also kind of concept. Before one go to deep sleep, one could kind of feel that way. Oh, just body sleeping. But once oneself really in sleep, one will not kind of think about body sleep. Or when oneself is going through dream, then also don't have that, because oneself in the field of dream.
Say that last thing again.
That when oneself in dream, then also there is no thought of body sleeping.
Because you're witnessing the dream. Here I am running down the street.
Yeah.
Now I can even change the dream.
Yeah. No, you can change and play with the dream. Kind of sometimes you fly, change into something. Kind of enjoy.
But you see, there's this place, and everybody has experienced it. When you're going to sleep, between wakefulness and sleep, there's that twilight zone in there. Where you're in neither.
Yeah.
You're in that, and the mind is not thinking. That's the pure consciousness that's there all the time. Now off you go to sleep, and now consciousness becomes nil.
Yes.
And then you go from that to dream, and there's some awareness. There's awareness, oh, somebody's running after me, or whatever it is. There's also the possibility of having that awareness that, oh, I'm watching somebody run after me.
Yeah, just in the dream itself.
And then that can grow into wakefulness where, oh, my arms are moving, my lips are moving, my head is moving this way. I'm watching myself engage.
Yeah, and also to slowly realize this is also same like a dream.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much for this.
I've read a book by Tsewang on the same topic, dream yoga. He mentioned something that he calls changing karmic traces. Could you say something a little bit more about that and tell me maybe if that's the same as simply observing dream content when aware in dream?
Changing what? Changing
karmic traces.
Yeah. So that it is also in a way similar like that, because that as one kind of like a dream, through the dreaming process, where one could, kind of like understand, like how it is like dream and illusion. But that the karmic process is like as I said, kind of habitual tendency. Sometimes, like based on in the past lifetime what one might have been doing, and that similar kind of things also appear in the dream, which is like a karmic imprints, or that the past lifetime karmic imprints or karmic kind of like a traces, that which is kind of like a somehow which we could not remember in our awake lifetime. Then in the dream lifetime sometimes it also can remember kind of many things, like almost like there are some modern technique like hypnotizing, similar like that. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for coming tonight, Kenchen. Thank you everybody for coming, by the way. But I just wanted to ask, you were talking about how that when we have a dream that we can change things and we're kind of in control of that dream when we practice dream yoga. And is it kind of similar that in this dream, if we practice meditation and we get more and more control of our mind, do we not also begin to alter this dream, because our behaviors and perceptions and reactions, all of these things change, and it can completely change the journey that's happening in front of you? I mean, not to the same extent, but
yeah. It is, of course, it is possible. But only the difference is in the dream lifetime, since it is that there is no any reality at all, it is more easier to change and more easier to display. But this lifetime, even it is in reality, even it is exactly like a dream lifetime, but this our mind just holds this as reality, kind of the habitual tendency of seeing and experiencing everything as real is strong. So that way it is just kind of little bit harder. But as you say, like if one meditate, understand, and one have kind of like a control over one's mind, and moreover, if one could experience one's kind of like pure consciousness, then just it is easy that one can just really transform this reality, in one's kind of like one's own experience, one's own projection. All everything can be kind of like transformable and kind of change. And after one have just actual realization, then kind of like a fires, even you put your hand in fire, fire cannot just burn, because you now experience that the fire is illusion, one's body is illusion, because one have realized the illusory nature itself. So fire does not burn, and then kind of water does not make you wet, and kind of so forth, and that whatsoever it is, kind of like even there are masters who just one of Nalanda University, kind of great master who realized that emptiness and got into that realization. It is hard to believe that he just wrote a kind of cow drawing on the wall, and then from there he get milk and then make tea and serve all the monks. So that the book he has written Madhyamik Avatara, the middle part. At the end he has written that the Chandrakirti who milk from the drawing cow, he has written like that. So when just one realizes kind of this emptiness nature and illusory nature, then real cow is illusion and the illusory cow is real. That there is no kind of difference in its kind of reality, because one experience everything as illusion. Everything is emptiness, so everything can be transformed and changed in any kind of like a thing. So it's possible, really possible to change the world.
To build on something I heard you say, I think earlier, regarding reincarnation, these practices, don't they equip us with a bardo state? mind in the intermediary phase of reincarnation?
Yeah, so it is true. Yeah, if we have kind of very stabilized practice in this, as kind of like as part of the practice, kind of habitual tendency, it happens in the dream, and then that kind of like same practice kind of constantly happen in the dream, just frequently. Then after die in the bardo, after the intermediate state, that all that practice, whatever it was coming to the dream, similar like that in the bardo, again just one could to have that same experience, and then it is very easy to liberate at that moment. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so thank you all. So that whatever kind of we have accumulated this merit, something kind of positive energy that we dedicate to for as a cause for happiness, peace, and prosperity, longevity of life, and the kind of good health, and to pacify all sorts of disease, sickness, warfare, negative thoughts, and finally we could to experience our own pure consciousness, not just only us. All beings may experience their pure consciousness, and that way this world may transform into a kind of like almost like a paradise, kind of pure world. In that way we can have very positive thought, and then we'll do that dedication prayer. Sonam de tamje sigba ni tumnam yebe tanam pamje sing kega naje pong tubai sibe solen dugun jawara sho jambe pavye chitara kemba tang kundu sambo te deshin de teta kunji jeso tar kiwan dita tamje rabdu tembe pajuru lame shape ten tim kibu saten yunla chau tembe chinda ngatang jorba temba yiring nebe tashi sho. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, maybe take too much time.
Can I ask you all just to stay in your chair just for one small more minute? I just wanted to give a gift to Kenchen while everybody was still seating, and then you've all been very patient, and you can go and get some good food and drink. Just one more little minute. Thank you.
So, we're just giving this offering. It has the 8 auspicious symbols.
Oh, yeah.
Which you can explain to
That's
them.
great. Yeah.
And this beautiful Buddha. So we're giving this to Kenchen as a gift from all of us for his time and effort and his wonderful information he's shared tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. This is, they're saying 8 auspicious signs. All these 8 auspicious signs, flowers, banner, conch shell, kind of like endless knots and so forth, which is, auspicious one. And then as, kind of like Buddha is Buddha, enlightened. But this, how it appears so beautiful, it is still illusion. Thank you. Okay, so Danny, please enjoy dinner. Take this. Okay.